Last year, I sold my business to a private equity firm for $1.8 million. And in this video, I'm going to be giving you that exact blueprint, everything that I used to get to that point from starting the company, building it, scaling it, and then eventually selling it. We're going to talk about the entire process. So planning, building, what products to sell, how to get customers. We're going to look at numbers. So exactly under the hood, what it looks like to scale and run a seven-figure business in terms of revenue, expenses, profit, valuation multiple, and then obviously how we got to the 1.8 enterprise valuation. And we're going to talk about how the company was structured so that I could exit this business, because a lot of people have businesses that are making them money, but they can't really sell them. And so this video hopefully is going to change that. And so this was my 3 to 5 year blueprint for building and selling a business in my 20s so that I could do whatever I want in my 30s and beyond. So it's going to be my personal experience, but it's also going to be some takeaways for you if you're running a business to hopefully get in your journey as well. So let's get started. Now, the first few bullet points here are going to be pretty self-explanatory and pretty basic. But to start, organization and setup, you want to make sure that you use something like LegalZoom or a lawyer to create articles of organization and an operating agreement for your business from day one. Now, why do you want to do this? Well, when private equity firms look at businesses, they want to minimize risk in buying that business. And if you can show them that you've set up the company properly from day one, there's no risk of it violating any laws or even at risk of not being in compliance with state laws or anything like that. If you can show them that from day one, then it's going to be a lot easier to talk them into buying a business and talk to them throughout the process. Same thing with like trademarks. So if you have any phrases, logos, even the company name, if you can get that trademark at the very least pending using something like Trademark Engine, pending with the USPTO, then it's going to be a lot easier to transfer those trademarks and that IP to a buyer down the road. And so this was all something I did from day one because I was planning on selling my business from the day I started it. I knew I wanted to build something valuable and then sell it to a private equity firm or strategic buyer or something like that down the road. So I did all this from day one. The company name was High Strike. We trademarked the logo. We actually trademarked the hex code for the green, 7ED957. And we trademarked the obviously the company name as well. So digital products. So our company was built on digital products. We were a subscription-based business. Now we use Discord to build a trading room. And in that trading room, we had different API workflows. We had different integrations that we used Bubble for. And the website was literally just built on ClickFunnels. And so I looked at this like, how can I simplify the tech stack down to something that anyone can understand and anyone can go and replicate? And so for me, it was Discord, Bubble, and ClickFunnels. Whoops, this is teachable. So these three platforms were basically the bread and butter of what the company was built on. And if you're saying like, wow, anyone can do that, anyone can do that. And so if you boil down your tech stack to the fewest number of platforms that you can, it's going to simplify the way you do business. And so that's what I intended on doing from day one. So our flagship product was a trading room. I think it's a good time to unblock this. So the flagship product was a trading room, and that was a $99 a month subscription, which we later bumped the price up to $199 a month. So in the trading room to start, it was just a community of retail traders. It was a place for retail traders to share their ideas. We also added on a beginner's course that I produced myself based on my trading knowledge. And later, as we systemized the business, we had other professional traders contribute to the course and the trading room, which we'll get into in a second. And then finally, we were able to come out with a high ticket offer, which was really how we scaled the business well. It was a $5,000 package. It's called Alpha Mastermind, and it was basically like hands-on trading education. We didn't launch that until after we had professional traders on staff. So I wasn't able to run something like that just due to my trading experience. I didn't have enough experience to be able to charge $5,000 for a product. And so we'll get into this in a bit, but as the company grew, I felt more comfortable offering higher ticket products because we had real professional traders on staff. That's one of the biggest things that scaled the business. So payments, we use Stripe. And as we're going, if you're thinking, well, this doesn't really seem like a new novel business idea. I've seen this business, 1,000 times in the last 5 years. You're right. And one of the biggest things that I learned early on was that in order to make 7 figures or to have a business that's doing 7 figures a year, you don't need to come up with a completely new business model. In fact, the best 7 figure businesses are derived from existing 7 figure businesses. So if you're going out there thinking that you have to create something completely new, odds are there are enough people out there that are trying to start businesses. Odds are you're not the first person to have tried any specific business model. And so if you can take that understanding and think that if a business model has probably been tried before and I don't see anyone successfully doing it, then you can probably conclude that that business model doesn't work or doesn't work very often. And so if you can use the market to give you data on what's working, then it's a lot easier to get to a viable product more quickly and build a business around it more quickly. So my advice to you is if you're starting, if you're scaling, look at what's already out there working and put your own spin on it. It should be like an 80-20. It's a good time to make this note here. It should be 80-20. So 80% of your business model should already exist, and then the 20% is where you put your own spin on it. So any business that's starting, it should go in this format. Like, just take what's already out there and put your own spin on it to start. Down the road, you can add more products and you can experiment with different structures and stuff. But if you're really trying to get product market fit as fast as possible, like, I guarantee you, most businesses are going to relate to this structure here. Like, this is not a crazy structure, and it's by design that this isn't a crazy structure. Let's move on. So marketing, and this is going to be the exact same thing, but marketing was the same thing. Like, organic social, use CapCut to edit, and use Instagram to post. Our entire customer acquisition engine was built on Instagram. So we got very good at producing Instagram content that, just for whatever reason, hit the right audience and got the right people interested in trading in our company. And so what we did was we just tripled down on that. We just experimented until we found a content style that stuck, and then we just went with it. And so for a lot of people that are starting, this isn't so hard, but this is the tough part, right? It's more tough to hit the marketing spot. Anyone can really build something that's valuable, especially in today's age with all these software platforms that you have, right? Anyone can go learn these platforms and build something valuable. But the key differentiator for most people is here. And how do I get my product in front of enough people? And so for us, the customer journey looked like this. So it was important to us that we had discovery, right? Obviously, discovery is how people come across your brand. Nurture, conversion, sales staff, you can figure all that out. But discovery is the biggest limiting factor for most people. And so to start, we allocated a little bit of budget to Facebook and Instagram advertising just to kind of get the page off the ground. And one of the biggest strategies that worked really well for me was paying these larger pages in our targeted niche to produce content on our behalf. They already had the reach. They already had the SEO built up within the Instagram platform. And so back then, shoutouts costed $50 to $100. So we'd pay these big investing pages or these big trading pages, like these faceless pages. We'd pay them on a monthly basis to produce lots of content for us and tag us in that content. And that's how our product got off the ground. We built a following of about 15,000 followers pretty quickly because we were able to just pay pages to do shoutouts for us. And so this is one of the biggest hacks that I think is still viable, is running shoutouts and just paying people to post content. It's not as viable if you're like running ads through an ad manager account, because for whatever reason, people have an allergic reaction to seeing ads. I get this myself. I'll see an ad and I'll just immediately swipe away because I know they're trying to target me. But one of the biggest strategies that people, I think, are underutilizing is organic advertising on Instagram. So reach out to these big pages, try to make deals with them to post your content and do like carousels, do reels, just test a bunch of stuff. And you're going to get followers from that. And then once you get followers from that, they're going to tell you what they want to see by their interaction with your content, and just iterate. This is the piece that, is so big, so key for people in getting their business off the ground. So once we had some traction, we were making some sales, it came time to start systemizing the business. Now, we'll go over numbers in a second, but I started systemizing the business around here, right around here. So we're getting some traction. Making some sales. And so what I wanted to do now was buy back my time. So this had two purposes for me. The first purpose was to obviously buy back my time and to take some of the stress off my plate, because up until this point, I was doing all of this, 100% of this. So that was the first purpose. The second purpose was because I knew I wanted to target an enterprise valuation of 7 figures. And you can't get to an enterprise valuation of 7 figures if the company is just you, right? That's you. Okay, that's you right there, running the entire company. Or you can't get there unless you have this. Now let's go over company structure. So I'll zoom in a little bit. But basically what I did, and I'll kind of go through the order of operations here in a second, but basically what I did was I hired a CEO or a COO. We experimented with different titles, but we hired an operator basically that runs the day-to-day of the company, including finances, all the critical decision making, right? So I offloaded all of the burden of making decisions, creative control, authority, delegation, all of that was offloaded off of me. And I trained a COO, an operator, to take care of all of that for me. So that's really valuable, right? So if I'm not continuing with the business when I sell it, then there needs to be someone that is continuing with the business that understands exactly what makes the business work and what makes the business produce cash flow and where to take the business from there. And so that's one of the most important things that I did to systemize the business, and hiring a CEO. Product fulfillment. So I mentioned earlier in the video that we hired pro traders at some point. So it was about here. We hired pro traders, and you can see kind of how it had an impact on the business. But we hired 3 pro traders to be behind the paywall to take care of fulfillment. Now, fulfillment is everything that's needed to give the customer what they paid for. So before, where I was doing all this, I was managing the community, I was moderating, I was taking all the DMs, I was handling all the inbound requests, right? We hired pro traders to do all that. So they started live streaming, and because of this, they actually had more capacity throughout their day to produce value for the group. And so it actually benefited the group a ton. It benefited the product. So I distributed the workload off myself to eliminate what I call bus risk. That's a bus. Okay. So bus risk is if someone on your team gets hit by a bus, if your business dies, then you don't really have a business and it's not really transferable. And so to eliminate bus risk, you need to distribute workload and reliance across your business. So that's what this was doing. We hired a customer success manager to handle all product inquiries, refunds, subscriptions, everything like that. We hired a marketing and sales team. And so this is kind of the biggest thing that we did. The first hire that I made was a content guy. And so the content guy produced content, took all that off my plate. And he really helped us grow the business, and that's kind of where you see this inflection point right here. This is where we hired content, outsourced it, and it went from me spending my entire day, like 12 hours a day, doing this, this, and this, to me kind of just overseeing the bigger picture, right? Buying my time back and creating an asset that kind of ran itself. So that was the videographer. And then the performance marketer, sales engineer, and sales staff. That came later when we launched the high ticket product. Okay, so we launched high ticket. This is all high ticket stuff down here. Kind of segment like that. And then beginner's course and trading room were all run by the pro traders, the customer success manager. Okay, so that was the company structure. This is the customer journey kind of in parallel. Take a second to go over order of operations here. Now, I think one thing that I did really well here was systemize things in a proper order. So the first thing that first it was self-run, but the first thing that I systemized was the content engine, because I felt like that was the biggest lever on the business. Just like how I talked about here, the marketing side of things is the biggest biggest lever that you have on your business, the hardest thing to figure out. It's also the most impactful for your bottom line, right? How do you get your offer in front of more people? And so I spent all my time devising a content system and hiring a content guy that could produce good quality content to scale the business. So content engine and customer acquisition. Third, I systemized the fulfillment engine. So right, that's like I said, when I hired the professional traders here, and then I trained a CEO and operator about 6 months out from when I was planning on selling. And then finally, obviously, we targeted the exit. So once we had the business systemized, and I'm sorry for all this messiness, but once the business was systemized like this, it opened up a lot of different possibilities. So instead of having just something that made me $50K a month, $60K a month, we had an asset with 3 different engines that could produce cash flow for whoever owned the asset, even if that person was not me. So all the systems that I was implementing, all of this stuff, I tracked in Slack and Google Drive. So Slack was where our business lived. Now Slack is my highest recommended platform that was like the glue that kept us together. Everything I did was in Slack. All of the communication with team members. I wasn't like texting my employees. I wasn't emailing anything. It was all through Slack. That's important because Slack keeps a history of everything. And so if there's ever any questions on how something works, it's all in the Slack history. Same thing with Google Drive. I didn't save things on my desktop. I didn't have people like just emailing files back and forth. It was all uploaded to Google Drive, organized in folders, so anyone could access that information at any time. And this is what really turned the business into a sellable asset, right? So this, as well as all of the systemization that I did. And then, as I was scaling the business, as we were looking to exit, it came time to find a buyer. So once everything was in place, once I had the 3 engines, right, the product fulfillment engine is one, the sales and marketing, so the customer acquisition is another, and then this I call the back office engine is the 3rd engine. So once all 3 of those engines were in place, it was time to find a buyer. And so we listed the business at 1.5 million and we ended up selling for 1.8. Now the reason we were able to get 3 different bidders and bid the price up from 1.5 million to 1.8 million was because we had all these things systemized super well. We had consistent revenue. We had consistent volume, and we'll go over all the numbers in a second. And then finally here, we signed the deal for 1.8 million. So this is kind of the order of events over here. I know it's messy right now, but let's kind of talk about the numbers and look at how everything went. Now, I just want to give you guys a disclaimer here. All of the numbers that I'm going over here are numbers, performance, strategy, operations. It's specific to before I sold the business. So up until July 31st, 2023, this video does not cover anything that happened after that point. I'm not giving away any information past that point, and then none of the strategy is to be construed as financials or information about business afterwards. So we did about 3.4 million in fees processed by Stripe, and about 2.5 million in transactions processed by Teachable. So this is the beginner's course. Right, I talked about the beginner's course over here, and then this is the trading room and high ticket sales. So if you bear with me while I mark this up. So trading room and high ticket sales is here, and then beginner's course is here. So you can see the business was diversified across multiple products. It wasn't like all of our revenue was coming from one single product or one single customer, right? We had thousands of customers, 10,000, 20,000 customers in Stripe, and I think 12,000 in Teachable over here, right? So the customer risk was very, very low, and the product risk was very low. And it showed that this business was very able to pivot from product to product effectively because we had the right systems in place. And that was really attractive to private equity buyers. So our annual revenue over the 5 or so years was about 1.1 million, and our annual expenses was 500K. So this was one of the trade-offs that I made in scaling my business. So I knew that spending a little bit of extra money to have the business systemized and to build these engines to make the business attractive to buyers was going to be worth it, because I was going to be able to build an enterprise out of it instead of something that just made me money. So obviously 11 minus 5 is 6. So we made about 600K per year. And our valuation multiple was listing, it was 2.5. And the sale price was a clean 3x. So typically, when you run a digital business under 20 million, you're going to be able to get between a 2, 4, maybe sometimes 5x for the business. That means the amount of money it's making in profit per year times its valuation multiple. So in this case, we ended up closing at a 3x valuation multiple, so 1.8 million. Now, the process for selling the business took about, oops, you can't see that. The process for selling the business took about 7 months. So that included talking to buyers, that included vetting buyers, included receiving LOIs or offers. It included the due diligence period, which took up most of the time. And so we closed the deal on August 1st, 2023. Like I said, all this information only covers the strategy, operations, performance of the business before closing. So I can only speak to my impact on the business and my experience running the business. I don't want to make any misrepresentations about anything that happened after. That's for buyers to tell you if they want. And so this is the blueprint. And I think a lot of people, overcomplicate this process at the risk of, oversimplifying it. I think you can boil it down to this exact system, right? So set up your business, create the right organization, find a digital product to sell that's already selling, right? Use the 80-20 rule. 80% should be a business model that's already working. 20% should be your own spend. Figure out the marketing, which, like I said, is the hardest part. For me, it was Instagram. For you, it might be YouTube. It might be cold outreach. It might be cold email. It might be affiliates. Systemize with employees. You can copy this company structure. Track everything in Google Drive and Slack. And then when you're ready, when the business is systemized and it has enough income history, list it on Flippa and see what conversations you can get, right? So if this was helpful for you in determining whether or not you can sell your business, whether, helping you on your process to creating a business, helping on your process to scaling a business, maybe it shifted your beliefs a little bit and shifted your thinking in terms of what you need to do to sell the business. And hopefully that did happen, because that's the goal of this video. But all in all, this is the system. So I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope this was valuable for you. If it was, please like and subscribe. I'm making content like this every week. Again, my name is Ben Zogby, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next video.